All right.
Hi, and welcome to Tea Transitions, the podcast where women share their stories of building a life abroad. I'm your host, Rose Davenport.
Hi, I'm Farah Baker. We are here for the unfiltered truth, the victories, the setbacks, and the joys of your journey of change. Today, we welcome Jen, our guest, who is in the Massachusetts area, right, Jen? Welcome.
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jen. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So, can you share a bit about where your journey began and what led, you to move abroad?
Sure. So I met my husband. We started out as pen pals about when I was 20, so that was like 42 years ago. And how it happened was I was working for OTS, which was a overseas oil company in Singapore. And one of the girls brought in a list of pen pals from this club called Cherry Blossoms. And I was 19 at the time. And I was, she said, anybody interested in, chatting with American men? And I said, sure. So I took a list. There were 4 guys on the list that I picked. And my husband, Jim, was the last guy I picked.
Save the best for last. There you go.
So we started out, I, wrote letters to all 4 guys, but it turned out 3 out of the 4 wanted to get married like tomorrow.
Oh, seriously? Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, no, I'm not I'm only 19, I'm not interested in marriage right now. What I was looking for was because I love to travel. I've always loved to travel. And I thought, oh, it would be great if I had someone in America that I could visit, So Jim was the only one who didn't want to get married tomorrow. So we ended up, corresponding for about a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he, I guess I was really naive because he had already planned that, he was looking for somebody to marry, but I had no idea. And so after I left the oil company, I joined Singapore Airlines. I was a typist in their legal department. And Jim and I had been corresponding for about a year and a half then. And he was with the military. He was with the 82nd Airborne and was stationed in Egypt at the time. He was in Egypt. He was part of the multinational peacekeeping observers. So he was just finishing his second 6-month tour with them and was coming back to the States. He was stationed out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And so he said to me, I've been given a month's vacation. He said, I would like to come out and meet you and your family. He said, if everything works out, we can get married. And I'm like, hold on a second. Nobody said anything about getting married. So I'm like, yeah, you can come out. I said, but I'm raised Catholic. Jim was also Catholic. I said, but it doesn't happen that quick. You can't just, next week you want to get married. I said, with the Catholics, you have to put out, a ban, what they call
Banner.
to let people know that you're getting married. So in case you are already married, but you have lied to your spouse, they will know. So anyway, he came out. The first 5 days of his visit was horrible.
Oh, what happened?
My husband was an introvert, which I didn't know because we never talked on the phone. we only corresponded through letters.
Okay, people understand this was 40 years ago, okay? There was no internet.
No internet, not even, email or AOL. I still have my AOL address though, but it was not like the dating websites, and it wasn't internet. It was literally you wrote messages,
Letters.
you wrote letters,
Yeah.
So anyway, when he came out, he was just like super shy, didn't say much, and I'm a bit of a chatty Cathy. So after a while, it was just like, oh, this is not working out, So my sister said, give him another chance, and finally, after 5 days, he finally was comfortable enough with me, I guess. And by the end of the visit, this is how he proposed. We were watching TV in his room at the YMCA, and we were watching Candid Camera. And he looked at me and he said, so, do you want to get married? And I said, sure, what the heck? I'm not doing anything. So I said, but you have to ask my parents for permission. And years later, I found out he thought I was kidding, that you had to ask permission.
Oh.
So we went to my parents, I was living with my parents. So we went to my parents and he didn't ask. He just told my dad, he says, Jen and I are getting married. We just have to figure out. And I looked at him like, no, you're supposed to say, can I please marry your daughter? Or can I have your daughter's hand in marriage? Not, hey, I'm getting married,
Yeah.
So anyway, my mother was like, okay, she had her doubts about him because she had friends who had married foreigners. When they went to England, one of her nursing friends had married a British soldier. And when she got to England, she found out that he was married and she was there supposed to be like the servant.
Right.
Yeah.
So my mom was very, very cautious about it. But anyway, long story short, so we ended up getting married. We got married in 86. And he was up for tour of duty change. So he decided that to make my transition into American culture easier would be to get a posting to Hawaii. So we went to Hawaii for 3 years. We were there for 3 years. And I'm actually a little more fortunate than most Singaporeans who marry foreigners because I don't look the look. People mistake me for Colombian.
Yeah.
They always ask me if I'm either Greek, Italian, or, Spanish. So it was a little bit easier. However, with Hawaii, the local Hawaiians did not take too kindly to military. They didn't like the military. So, we experienced a little bias, I guess you want to call it. But it was fine, 3 years. So after 3 years, my husband decided that he wanted to try out for Special Forces. So he went for the training, he got selected, and now we had to move to Fayetteville, North Carolina, Fort Bragg. So we moved to Fort Bragg in 89, and we were there for about a year. He graduated from Special Forces, and then he put in a request to be transferred to Fort Devens, Massachusetts. As Jim was from Winchester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And up to this point, I only met his family maybe twice during the time we were married. So we moved to Massachusetts in 89. So in 3 years, I've only met them twice. So we come to Massachusetts. He's in the military. And then in 94, I get pregnant with my first child. And after 2 months, after Emily was born, 2 months later, they decided to close down Fort Devens. So now they're shipping us to our next duty station. Such is the life of a military family. You're going to the station for like 3 or 4 years, you know. So we were sent back to North Carolina because Jim was now assigned to the John F. Kennedy Warfare School, and he was a weapons sergeant. So he was a Special Forces instructor for weapons. So we spent the rest of his military career, which was another 4 years, and retired at 42. And we moved. He decided he wanted to move back to Massachusetts because by then I had my son Joshua, and he wanted the children to be near family because my family was still in Singapore and still is. So I was like, okay, you know, so we moved back to Massachusetts. I have always wanted to live in New England. I love New England. I love the Four Seasons and everything. So we moved back. We bought our first house. And then he got a job with the post office. He was a postal worker. And 10 years after we moved back, he suffered a massive heart attack and died unexpectedly.
Sorry for that.
Now, I know that was a very, very tough time for you. You know, we're very sorry for your loss. But how old were your kids at that point in time?
My daughter had just turned 14, and my son had just turned 13. My children are 22 months apart. It was a harder loss for my daughter than for my son. My son was at that age where he and my husband were like oil and water. But my daughter, my husband was everything to her. So it was a hard loss for her. But, you know, at that point, my parents had already passed. My parents had passed. My father passed in 2005. My mother passed 17 months later in 2006. And my husband passed in 2009.
So how, I mean, that's kind of like back to back almost, right? Yeah. I mean, how was that for you? Because you technically did not have any family there except for Jim's family and, you know, network. But I assume that you had established some form of network there.
I had, when the kids were young, I made the decision I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And through that, I made friends with, you know, the kids' friends and their parents. My husband, like I said, was an introvert. So he only had one friend throughout all this time. And, you know, we had our church. We were very active in our church. I made friends through church. And then when the kids started going to school, when Joshua entered first grade, I decided I was going to go back into the workforce. So I started out in 2005. I worked in an oxygen company. I worked there for about 3 years. And then when my father died, I decided it was time to change careers. So I always wanted to go into the medical field, but didn't want to do the nursing bit. So anyway, I got a job as a medical secretary and made more friends through there. And, our hospital is 3 minutes away from my house. So I got a job at the hospital And when Jim had his heart attack, it was a Saturday morning, and I was at the gym working out. He called me, couldn't get a hold because we had no signal in the gym while you're inside. So I came out and I saw he had I had two missed messages. I called him, couldn't get a hold of him, went to pick up my daughter, and as I was getting out the car, he called again. And I thought his mother had passed away. And he said to me, he says, I am at the hospital with chest pains. And I'm like, okay. And I said, I'm 3 minutes away from the hospital. I just picked up Emily. I said, I will come to the hospital. Unfortunately, there was some miscommunication with the hospital staff, and they didn't know that I was in the waiting room waiting for him. He was in the hospital. He drove himself to the hospital. And so I was in the waiting room. They didn't realize I was there. They were sending him to a bigger hospital, to the cath lab, and he coded in the ambulance. And so they brought him back, and then they realized, because they called me and said, where are you? And I said, I've been sitting in the waiting room for 45 minutes.
Wow.
Somebody was supposed to come out and get me.
Yeah.
And so they finally came out, and she says, I'm going to bring you into the family room. And I knew immediately something was wrong. And so they explained to me what had happened. And I said, I want to see him. And I was with my daughter. My son was still at home asleep, and he had no idea what was going on. So went in, and, I told my daughter, I said, call your brother and tell him what's going on. So my son ran all the way from our house to the hospital, which is about a 20-minute run.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was it, I mean, 1 minute we were planning to go into Chinatown, Boston, and the next minute I'm planning a funeral now, So
what kind of support did you have at that point in time? Who did you turn to?
Ironically, Jim was disowned by his family. Excuse me. Jim was disowned by his family years prior to this. So I had, my support were mainly my friends from work. And one of the girls, she was a nurse that had come with me from a different hospital to this hospital. And I called her and I said, Jim suffered a heart attack. She came down and was with me all through of this. So when he died, I came home and I called his mother. And I told his mother, I said, I just want to let you know that Jim passed away, and it's up to you to decide, what you want to do, So that was it. But my friends were always there for me. Sadly, when you become widowed, whether it's through sickness or unexpectedly, a lot of your married friends, for some reason, drop off the face of the earth. They stop being your friends,
Really?
I don't know if they feel like it's pantang, want to be
like a stigma of
exactly.
sorts.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't want to catch what she just caught, kind of.
But do you think it could be that time, maybe years, that time of the year? Because I'm trying to compare then and now, whether the community as a whole would behave as such. I don't feel it. I don't see it. I could be wrong.
There, it still is. It's very
sad.
sad, because from losing Jim and losing all my friends, I decided to go on Facebook, and I created a group,
The support
a
group.
support group.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, 2 years after he died, because the first year was just a total blank.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything. The second year was really hard because that was the year when everybody just disappeared from you.
And during this time too, Jen, have it ever occurred to you to say, heck, I'm just done. There's no support system here. I'm going back to Singapore.
Unfortunately, I couldn't do that because I had given up my citizenship.
Gotcha.
Singapore, you know, does not honor dual citizenship.
Right.
I given up my citizenship when I was pregnant with my daughter because my husband was in special forces. He was always gone. And I was afraid that should anything happen to him, I would be stuck here, you know, and I would be kind of like in a predicament. What do I do now? So he said, well, if you feel better about it, you can give up. If you want to give up your citizenship, give it up, you know. So that's what I chose to do. It was one of the hardest things for me to do, especially when I had to give up my passport. At my naturalization ceremony, they have you say that you are now giving up foreign princes and potentates, you know, that you're now committed to being an American. That was I cried during that. And then when I had to go down and surrender my passport, that was even harder. You know, but
I suppose because that was all that you knew prior, and all your roots are there. I can imagine how tough that is.
Right. And you know, if my family was here, it would be one thing. But all my cousins, all my family, and my parents at the time was still alive. So everybody was back there, you know. But I honestly feel like in life, we're all destined for the life that we choose. You know, I believe that fate gives us a path of how your life is supposed to be. And this was my life. You know, this was the path that was destined for me, you know.
Did that help you in accepting the pain of losing Jim?
Partly, but not right away. I just felt like when I got married 23 years ago, because he died when we were married 23 years when he passed away. And I felt like, you know, I didn't sign up for this 23 years ago. I wasn't expecting to be a young widow with young children, you know. So it took me a while. So that's why, like, after 2 years, I decided there has to be other women out there in Massachusetts, in the New England area, that, you know, can benefit from knowing somebody is also going through the same journey as. So that's why I started the group Widowed in Massachusetts on Facebook.
Is it still active, this group?
Yeah, we've been active 11 years.
Wow.
Okay, excellent. Great job.
Thank you. We have over 300 members.
And it's within the area where you live?
Yep. Well, no, actually, it's throughout the entire Massachusetts.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
impressive.
I'm actually the furthest from everybody else. Most of the members are out in the North Shore, which is Boston North onwards. And it's like about, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hour drive for me, which I don't mind. I love to drive anyway. But yeah, so we meet quite frequently during the good months. We're kind of slowing down now because, you know, winter's coming.
Yeah.
A lot of the women in the group are 50 and above. And so we don't like to drive at night. We don't like to drive in bad weather. So during December through like March, we basically just keep in touch on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We,
Ladies, I want to put a pause for a second.
Sure.
My dog is coughing in the background. Just a sec.
All right. Now, Jen, when you started the Facebook group, the whole idea behind it was to form a support system because you realized that it was lacking when you were going through your journey of widowhood and grief and being a single parent. Now, how has that helped your community, and how do you feel being able to help others in that situation?
When I started it, what I was looking for was basically, community. Because, like I said earlier, unless you are widowed, you have no idea what that person is going through.
Right.
It's one thing to lose your parents, because my sisters and I chat every Sunday via Skype.
And your sister live in Singapore?
My sisters still live in Singapore. They're all not married. They all live together. So we do Skype every Sunday. And so kind of like we were all grieving the loss of our parents.
Right.
But I was, on top of that, I was also grieving the loss of my husband. But my sisters didn't understand that.
Yes.
Because when in the first early days of me being widowed, I would call and I would just cry. And I don't know if it's because it's just a Singapore thing, but they were very uncomfortable with me crying because they felt like, okay, you lost your husband. I don't know what to say to you, basically. And so I found that with my friends too, my work friends, and they were all very uncomfortable with the situation. I did have friends that were divorced and they kind of understood, but I said to them, being divorced is kind of like being widowed. I said, but you are still able to see your ex.
Right.
You're still able to talk to them, even though you're not living together anymore. I said, but like for a widowed person, when you lose your spouse, there's nobody there to help you. Like the raising of the children, taking care of finances, the house maintenance, all that fell on me, So that's why I thought, there has to be somebody out there that can help me. And one of the doctors that I was working with, one of her patients, I worked in the pediatric office. So one of her pediatric patients, the same year my husband died, they lost their father the same exact way in November. It was like a week before Thanksgiving. So she came out and she said to me, she goes, I have a patient that is newly widowed. She goes, and I would like to introduce you to her. And I'm like, sure. And it turned out, ironically, I used to be the temporary secretary for Jean's father-in-law many years ago.
Small circle.
It was a very small, I'm like, oh my gosh, my world is so small,
Small circle.
So Jean and I have been friends for about 15 years now. And she was a good support too, because she, at that time, I was just so depressed. I was actually being treated for depression because it was just me. My husband's family dropped off. They didn't want to have anything to do with us. We didn't want to have anything to do with them either.
What about your kids? What did they do? How was their journey during that time?
My daughter was like my husband. She's very introverted. So, for years she didn't talk about her feelings. She had her group of friends that she hung out with. My son is a little more emotional sensitive. He would share his feelings. But unfortunately, my children, after 3 years of losing their father, they decided that they lost their religion. My son was very angry with God and, would always say, I don't want to go back to church. What's the point? So I decided to seek therapy, and I wish my one regret with this whole thing is I wish I had forced my children to go to therapy.
Together.
Right. Or even separately.
Right.
But they did have their friends. So they had their own little group that helped them with it as well. My son's pediatrician was a fantastic doctor. And because I worked with him, I would tell him, if something was bothering me about Joshua, and he would talk to Joshua, and he would say to Josh, anytime you want to talk to me about anything. But that's why I decided to start that group, because I felt there were other people, probably in the same situation as me.
Right.
Dean was in the same situation. Her children are the same ages as my children. They suffered a lot worse. They had a lot more mental dealings with, losing their father. It was harder for them. I am very grateful and thankful that my children turned out okay. That was my biggest fear.
I suppose that as a parent, especially now a single parent, that all falls onto you, that
Right.
responsibility and
Right.
the stress as well,
Yeah, and but so when I started the group, I just put it out there in Facebook, started the group. And then women, was mostly women that would sign up on the group. And a lot of us were in the same boat. A lot of us were young widows with young children. And so we would get on every night and just talk about our day. How was your day? We wouldn't do Zoom. We would just do typing, posting, direct messages,
Chats.
that sort of thing, chats.
Taking a step back today, what's your takeaway during this whole entire process? If you can maybe summarize that, just because the goal of this podcast is to empower women and to give them some ideas, some suggestions, what your journey was like, what advice you can provide our listeners out there, what would that be from your personal experience?
My personal experience is don't just close yourself off when something bad happens in your life, whether it's illness, divorce, death, whatever. There's always somebody out there who is willing to help and who is probably going to be in the same situation as you are. So put yourself out there, if you are a Christian, or not even Christian, just lean on your faith. That's something that has worked for me. And by leaning on my faith, I've met people in my church who became my support system. And then, you never know. There's communities, people at work. You will come across people at work who are in the same situation as you. Basically, just network, I guess. And just be there, be supportive to anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's widowed. If someone's having a hard time, be there for them, you know.
How has this experience then shaped your identity as an individual? How
Um,
do you see the world? What's or even sense of purpose?
yeah, I've always believed every one of us is brought into the world. When we come into the world, each of us has a purpose why we're here, you know. And so like I had explained to my kids, because my daughter was saying, I don't understand, why did Daddy die so young? And I said, well, number one, you know, he had bad family genes. You know, he had cardiac issues in his life. I said, but I strongly believe God puts you on earth to do a job. And when your job is done, he takes you home. You know, I said, and I feel Daddy's purpose in life was to teach me independence, because he took me from everything that I was comfortable with. I was a 22-year-old girl and I stress the word girl because he was the first guy I ever dated, you know. So
That's
he
a
took
very
me,
strong outlook, what you just said, that Jen,
yeah,
because people would flip this experience into something negative because of the
right,
fact, your support system is so small
right,
on both sides, right?
right,
But instead, you use experience and you need to lead your own kids to say, hey, we are still surviving. This is what
right.
we need to do.
Right. And I
And
firmly believe that I am I don't consider myself a religious person. I,
spiritual.
I consider myself a spiritual person.
Hmm.
And I just feel like all of us have a job on this earth and we need to do our job.
Yeah.
And while we do that job, we need to help others to realize their potential
Yeah.
and also to realize what their purpose of journey is, you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Now,
what's
sorry.
uh,
Now, with your children, they are adults now, they are
Yeah.
working,
Yeah.
and they have adjusted eventually. Now, from my understanding, you are still a single person.
Yep.
And I know from your postings that, you don't think that that is in the cards for you per se, and
No.
you are happy by yourself.
Yeah.
Jen still speaks Malay, believe it or not, after
that's
all these years.
good. Come on, we want to hear it.
My God, you have to put me on.
Let's no, trust me, we still have our Malay twang.
Yeah.
We never lose it.
No, saya boleh cakap bahasa. My
Bagus,
anak
Jen.
perempuan,
Yeah.
Mm.
dia mau belajar,
Ah.
tapi dia tak ada initiative to
Motivation,
complete. Yeah,
initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Tak apa. Ajar dia Singlish.
yeah.
Singlish senang sekali.
My son, he is more Eurasian and Asian
Gotcha. Yeah.
than my daughter. My
Mhm.
husband was half French, half Irish.
When
Mhm.
was the last time the three of you went back home? Well, I say home as in Singapore.
Well, I went home last year
Gotcha.
because my sister had some health issues and we're
Mhm.
not getting any younger. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
as my son said,
Clock's
"You
getting old, isn't it?
yeah, my son said, you and aunties are getting old, so
Oh,
you need to
yeah.
go home, you know."
Yeah.
I went home, I spent a month with them.
Nice.
My son went home by himself 2 years ago. He was 27
Mhm.
and he loves Singapore.
Mhm.
If he could move back to Singapore and
Mhm.
live, he would. And
Mhm.
but he went home to Singapore to surprise my sister for her
Nice.
60th birthday.
Wow.
Nice.
He loved it.
Mhm.
My daughter, I think the last time she went home to Singapore was 15 years ago.
No, it's a while.
Yeah. She doesn't do good with the heat.
Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha.
like me, I no, I can't stand the heat anymore. When I went home last year, I was just so miserable.
And I
Now,
think for
from
all
what,
of us, we are so used to the four
yeah,
seasons here.
Yeah,
Me too, to be
yeah,
quite honest with you. I suffer every time I get home. I
yeah,
would try to look this pretty if
good,
I
right?
can, but then as soon as I came out of the house,
Yeah, forget
everything
it.
has to go
yeah.
up. I'm
Yeah,
sweating bullets. No,
yeah,
You
and
see, I'm still happy with the heat.
it's
I,
just too
even
much.
like in Massachusetts, we don't get, I mean, it gets hot, but it's not as bad as for you folks down south.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I still don't like the heat here. I mean, the hottest we get here,
Yeah.
like this year, the hottest summer was like 90, maybe.
Mm.
We had 3 days of heat wave, which was 90, 90, 91.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I can't stand this. Fall is my
So Jen,
favorite time of
is
year.
there a quote or a song or a ritual that captures your transition story?
Take It Easy by the Eagles.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it's funny
Mm.
because my husband and I was the hothead. I was always exploding and blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And my husband was the calm of the storm.
Mm.
And so he would always, whenever I would get stressed out or I would get angry and, start throwing things, he would always look at me and he would say, take it easy. And he would sing that song to me. Like
Yeah.
time we were arguing,
Nice. Yeah.
he would just turn around and look at me and he would start singing Take It Easy.
That's a beautiful song too. I love it.
So every time I get stressed out, it's weird, but the song will come on the radio.
Yeah.
And I would just say, okay, Jim, I hear you. I hear you,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. And my last question to you today, Jen, if you could share a cup of tea with your past self, the one just arriving abroad, what would you tell her?
I would say, don't be afraid to explore your world. And definitely don't put off anything that you can do today or that you want to do today and say, I'll do it tomorrow, because none of us are promised tomorrow.
What tomorrow is, yeah.
Yeah. And so if you have an opportunity to do something, just
Do
go
it.
for it.
Yeah.
And I was always a worrier about money. My husband was not. He just felt, if you have the money, if you want to do something, just do it. Worry about the cost tomorrow. That's what I would tell myself, my 22-year-old self, Don't worry about the expense, just do it.
Good.
Yeah. Because you don't know what tomorrow will bring, right?
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's never
So true.
promised.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, as we are wrapping up, Rose, right? At this point, yeah. So, if today's episode resonated with you guys, please leave a comment below, share it with a friend, leave us a like, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you wish to be a guest, please DM or email us at hello@ttransitions.com. Every story matters here, and we are so grateful, Jen, that you have shared your
Thank you.
story in our space and your experience. Thank you so much.
It's
Yes,
finally great
thank
to hear
you.
your voice, Farah.
I know,
Oh,
right? Full disclosure, Jen and I knew each other from Facebook through another friend. I have never met Jen. I have never spoken to Jen until today.
Yeah.
Yes, but I have
Beautiful.
seen her grief. I have seen her stories, and I have seen her family. So that's how I knew that Jen had a story worth telling, and sharing with the rest of us, because at some point we all go through some form of grief, right?
And from the bottom of my heart, Jen, thank you so much for sharing such a sensitive, experience there. And I hope listeners out there could take some of these little nuggets with them as they prepare, their journey. Because we don't know what's ahead of us, but we
Right.
can only plan. But what matters today is the positivity and the strength so that we can take a step forward. And again, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Rose.
Thank you, Jen, again.
All right, then.
Thank you.
Bye. Good to
Bye.
see you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks,
See
you
you in the next
too.
conversation.
All right.